how about you quit talking about me? It's been 3 fucking months since I texted you, and you're spiraling out of control. So just remember, just as much dirt as you have on me, I have on you, honey. You punch at me, I punch back 10 times harder. Go see a therapist.
Hey guys, Becca Scoops here. Hope you guys are having a great day. It's Sunday afternoon here for me, but don't know what time you'll be watching this. So hope you guys are enjoying your day. I'm getting ready for a big live stream, but I needed to make a video today because some things have come up regarding Gypsy Rose Blanchard that I would like to address right away. All right. If you don't know, Gypsy has been very prolific on social media, talking a lot about her medical conditions and how her memory has failed her. And so I've gone over some of that in my past videos, but now she's come out with some other little things that I want to take a look at. So we're going to get to that. We're also going to get to her chief lieutenant, Bree, over on TikTok, who went live and also, again, is discussing medical stuff about Gypsy. So this seems to be a theme right now. And so when I started my video out with that spiraling out of control, I feel that we're spiraling out of control over there in Camp Gypsy. Something is going on, and she's trying to make us all think something about her medical conditions. And it's interesting, and I would like to respond to it. Okay. So we are also going to, in this video, address a little miny, teeny, eeny controversy that's going on in the Gypsy community at large. It's not really a controversy, it's just kind of a discussion. And I'm going to get to that also. And then I'm going to get to some of your comments. Okay. So we're going to start off by Gypsy and what she's posted lately. All right. So let me get to that. So Gypsy, one of the things that she's posted is this is a nurse practitioner that 60 Minutes Australia had on when they did their little show on Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Okay. Now I've gone over a little bit of what this nurse practitioner said. And before I go over, because Gypsy is saying, I see Gypsy as a victim. She obviously is pointing to this as some proof of she thinks this is going to back up her claims about her mother having Munchausen by proxy. That's what this all is about. So let's get to that right away. Okay. Okay, guys. So this nurse practitioner's name is Beatrice Yorker, and she claims to be an expert on Munchausen. And so this interview that she had is like almost 40 minutes long, between 30 and 40 minutes long. And only a very small segment does she talk about Gypsy's case. I think because she's grasping at straws. And, I never want to say anything wrong about one of my fellow nurses, that have been in the nursing field. And I'm sure she is an excellent nurse practitioner. I'm sure she understands what she's talking about. But you're going to see here in this interview when the 60 Minutes anchor asks her specific questions about Gypsy, it gets a little uncomfortable. So let me go ahead and let's start with that.
Driven to murder. It's abuse. The most horrific thing she did in order to create this fake reality.
So what that question was is, what is the most horrific thing Dee Dee did to create this fake reality? So they're talking about Munchausen. So the question is, out of everything, all the horrific things that happened to Gypsy, what does this woman think is the worst thing Dee Dee did to her? Let's listen to the answer.
Well, there were many things that were shocking, many things that were alarming, many things that were just make you cringe as to what Gypsy endured. I think the feeding tube is one of the things that gives me the most alarm because
Now, this is interesting because according to Gypsy Wright, depending on what interview you listen to Gypsy on, she's had over 30 surgeries. She's been under anesthesia hundreds of times. Her mom was feeding her a variety of medications that grogged her out and made her drowsy. None of those things, we have debunked all of those things. But if Nurse Yorker is going off a Gypsy story, it's interesting. The only thing she's going to bring up here is the feeding tube or the G tube. That's the worst thing. Okay, let's listen to why she says that.
once a child has a tube that either goes through their nose and into their stomach or directly surgically a tube that goes into their stomach, that parent can put in any kind of poisoning or medicine or toxin, and they can also starve the child.
Now, this is very interesting. She says they can also starve the child. Sadly, I don't think Nurse Yorker did her homework on this, and here's why. All right, we know that Gypsy was very underweight before she got the G tube. Okay, here Gypsy was 36 pounds on July 21st, 2000. And then she went up to a weight of 57 pounds. Okay. I went over this on my live down here. The underline part that talks about an intense evaluation that Gypsy had. I believe that's a 1 month stay in the hospital. Gypsy has now admitted she stayed in the hospital for a month around this time. And this would correlate with this feeding aversions and an intense evaluation. The little kid that's 8 years old weighs 36 pounds. You better believe they're hospitalizing her, and she's got severe problems. Okay. And we know that when she got the G tube, Gypsy's weight went up. It says right here. Okay, let me get you another note that I want. All right, guys, I think I cut myself off there. Too quick, but I'm here. So I want to take a look at this other note. Okay. All right, in the middle where it says May 2004, age 12, Gypsy turns 13 in July. So in May of 2004, she's 12. And here is the actual note. Gypsy's weight has shown a steady increase from 36 pounds. It's where the little red arrows are, 7/21/01 to the present weight of 57 pounds. All right. And even with the G tube, even with her gaining weight, okay, so we're not going backwards in weight. They believe the G tube and the added nutrition is helping. Her weight and height age is that of a 7-year-old, even with the G tube. And no, Dee Dee wasn't starving her because she wasn't losing weight. Okay, she wasn't losing weight. So yeah, this record comes from, I have to give credit to the Good Wives Network. You'll find their link in the description box. That's where this medical record comes from, the Good Wives Network. Okay, so now, what's the whole point here? Well, Nurse Yorker is saying that this G tube was going to be used for nefarious things to starve her, when it was the opposite. According to the medical records, it was the opposite. Gypsy had a hard time eating. Okay. She had a swallow study. And when I get to Bree's segment, when she talks about the swallow study, I don't even know if she talks about it. So let's go over it here. Okay. Yeah, I think Bree does bring it up. I think she says something like, "Oh, Gypsy, she could just throw up," or it's this nurse. I can't remember. Regardless, the swallow study is to watch the mechanics of how you eat. All right. And the modified barium, which is exactly the one Gypsy has here, which is what this talks about here. is a look for dysphagia, difficulty swallowing. By observing the mechanics of swallowing and identifying problems such as aspiration. Gypsy did not have aspiration, thank God, okay? But she did have dysphagia. She had significant dysphagia, all right? If you look at the doctor's notes there, okay? So what does the swallow study assess? What happens during that swallow study? It shows how food and liquid move. It films the movement of the mouth, how the mouth is moving. All right, the throat and the esophagus to see if they are working correctly. It looks for the aspiration risk also, and that determines if food or liquid is entering the lungs. So, like sometimes it goes down the wrong tube, we call it, right? And that could be super, super bad because it can lead to pneumonia. And it's something that is very, very bad if this happens. And one reason why they do the swallow study is to look for aspiration. They did not see that in Gypsy. And then they did see the problems with food consistency with her. It identifies which food and liquids, and that swallow study talks about it. Okay. So here is what it said. Here is the findings of the swallow study. The patient exhibited significant difficulty in swallowing all consistency of food. There was significant gagging and coughing with each attempt to swallow. Only small amounts were able to be swallowed without spitting out the food. Okay. That's the note, but that's not sure, she could fake it, spit it out, but some were going down, and the barium swallow was watching the whole mechanics of her swallowing, and she has this high palate. And you guys are not going to believe what I found about having the high palate that I'll get to in a minute. Okay, let's get back to Nurse Yorker and see what else she has to say. All right, here we're back with Nurse Yorker.
Or medicine or toxin, and they can also starve the child.
Total control.
Total control.
Can you explain how, I think one of the most puzzling things for most people who don't understand the syndrome is how a parent can create the symptoms of these terrible illnesses in the child? How Gypsy could present drooling, vomiting, looking like she was having a seizure?
Well, it's a combination of things. They can get the child to present symptoms by over-medicating them. So the child looks drowsy, or you can induce seizures. You can induce vomiting by giving a child Ipecac.
So of all the medications that Gypsy was on, nothing was there that really would do any of these things. We did not see any of those type of medications. And she was not on a long list of prescription meds. Most of them were inhalers, had to do with her breathing. I think there was some Valium or diazepam, which can make you, the anti-anxiety that can, but she wasn't getting that prescription in significant. I don't even know if it was, I think Gypsy, yeah, it was prescribed to her also, but not like significant amounts, where you see in no notes where a nurse or a doctor says, patient is groggy, patient is drowsy. You don't see them writing that one time in the medical records. Okay. So let's rule that out right now.
Which is medicine made if a child accidentally.
And no, the swallow study is not, you give someone Ipecac, sirs, they're like vomiting. Blech, I mean, right away, right? No, that's not what went on in the swallow study. They talked about how she was only able to take in small quantities of liquids and soft foods. So she wasn't having a reaction to Ipecac syrup, which you would be just vomiting, right? She was able to get some things down. So obviously Dee Dee had not given her any Ipecac syrup.
Discovers pills and ingests them, and it's like a poison control, get the kid to vomit. But if they're giving the child Ipecac to make them vomit so that they look like they've got some terrible stomach condition, then
and that was not, Gypsy never presented at the hospital vomiting in that kind of a way where they thought she had a horrible stomach condition. So you see what I mean? This woman is, they don't even talk that much about Gypsy's case, really. She goes off on these little tangents about other cases.
you can do it that way. Roy Meadows' original article talked about a mother who had her 4-year-old daughter evaluated and hospitalized many times for urinary tract infections. And they finally figured it out when they got a urine specimen that was loaded with red blood cells and bacteria. They typed the red blood cells in the urine, and it wasn't the little girl's blood type. It was the mother's blood type.
Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that? That sparked in me like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Didn't Gypsy say something right like that? So Gypsy's watching this woman, right, lately because she posted it on her social media accounts, right? She posted this interview. And I'm listening to this thing where she's talking about this other case where some mother was putting her own blood in her daughter or son's urine specimen, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, Gypsy said that. And I had never heard Gypsy say anything like that before. So let's take a look at that. All right. This is from one of Gypsy's diatribes over the last few days, right? And I was perplexed when I saw this because I thought, and you can go back and listen on my live, I go, I think I've heard this somewhere before. Well, I've heard this Beatrice Yorker's interview many times. I've watched that interview many times. And so that's where I heard it. I go, this sounds like a different case. I say that on the live. I go, this sounds like a different case. What am I talking about? Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm talking about when Gypsy wrote this. Gypsy writes on the left-hand side about halfway down. Now let's move on to other things I remember. Test on my kidneys. As a young child, my mother would always listen to this, you guys. She has never said this before, ever, until right now, within the last couple of days. At the same time, she says this, she's posting this interview with Beatrice Yorker. You go ahead and make the correlation. She writes, now let's move on to other things I remember. Tests on my kidneys. As a young child, my mother would always come into the restroom for when they needed a urine specimen. I remember my mother bringing a safety pin that was pinned to her shirt. And after I would pee in the cup, she would prick her finger and drop a few drops of blood into my urine, then claimed I had blood in my urine due to issues with, sorry, I have to find it, with issues with my kidneys. Then claimed I had blood in my urine due to issues with my kidneys. Okay, again, this is another example of her making a false symptom. So Gypsy was so perplexed that she could not come up with her mom making false symptoms. She uses the ridiculous Oragel thing that's been debunked. And so she knows that's not really a good one. And so she's racking her brains. She's racking her brains, you guys, to come up with, right? She's racking her brains. Oh, I better come up with something else. I need to come up with another way that my mom gave me a false symptoms. There really isn't one that I can think of because all my symptoms were real. But let me think. Oh, I remember. I was just listening to that Beatrice Yorker's interview. Yeah, that's the ticket. That's the ticket. Now, can I prove that 100%? No, of course not. But you be the judge. You be the judge. We've seen Gypsy do this in the past. She uses someone else's story and adopts it as her own. And I think the proximity of her posting that Beatrice Yorker interview, right, and writing this, and then I'm listening to the Beatrice Yorker interview and I'm going, wait a minute, that's what I was trying to remember on the live. I had heard this story about someone putting the parent putting the blood in the urine. And I know it wasn't Gypsy's story, but where did I hear that at? I couldn't remember. Well, thanks, Gypsy. You've refreshed my memory by posting the Beatrice Yorker interview. So there you go, you guys. There you go. All right, let's keep going here. All right, now that you know the context, just let's listen to the last 30 seconds again.
that way. Roy Meadows' original article talked about a mother who had her 4-year-old daughter evaluated and hospitalized many times for urinary tract infections. And they finally figured it out when they got a urine specimen that was loaded with red blood cells and bacteria. They typed the red blood cells in the urine, and it wasn't the little girl's blood type. It was the mother's blood type. And it turns out the mother had been putting her own menstrual blood into her daughter's urine specimens.
There you go. There you go, you guys. So what do you think? Is Gypsy grasping at straws? Is she spiraling out of control right now? Knowing the heat is on, that all of this is being debunked, all of it's being debunked, and it's only a matter of time before the mainstream media gets wind of this huge story. This is a huge story about that she had an actual condition, and that there's a very, very good possibility that Dee Dee Blanchard, her mother, did not have Munchausen. This is why I think Gypsy's spiraling out of control right now. All right. There's just a few other things in this interview that Gypsy has pointed out herself that I'd like you guys to consider. Okay, guys, pay close attention to this question and answer, because this goes against everything detectives know about criminology cases, right? When they do the study, when they're studying the cases, and like if you're in college for criminology, most, if not all, crimes have a pattern. Okay, you're not the first person to do this crime, right? So listen to this. And this is a huge red flag why Gypsy, this case did not fall into the Munchausen by proxy category.
Have you ever seen a Munchausen's by proxy victim driven to murder?
Only Gypsy.
When you
Only Gypsy.
look at her case, and you've heard her many times since her release.
All right. Now, there's this one more point that I want you guys to listen to when it comes to this. But remember, we are supposed to believe that out of all of the Munchausen by proxy cases in the world, that Gypsy Rose Blanchard breaks the mold. She breaks the mold, right? In the study of criminology, right? When you study crimes, that she does not fit the pattern. Well, isn't it more likely that she doesn't fit the pattern because Dee Dee didn't have Munchausen? I think that sounds a lot more reasonable. All right, guys, here we go.
When you look at her case, and you've heard her many times since her release, how do you characterize what made her snap?
What made her snap? Now, if you have been following this case for any amount of time, you know Gypsy didn't snap, that she planned and plotted this murder over almost a 2-year time period. Okay? So there was no snapping. This was not a crime of passion. When you snap, that's also called a crime of passion. I've used the analogy of you walk in on your husband in bed with another woman, and you snap and you pick up the gun that's in your closet and you start shooting. That's a crime of passion, right? That's not a crime that you plotted or planned in any way. Okay. So again, the mainstream media here is letting us down. This question wasn't appropriate because we know she actually shot her mother up 10 times with what she thought was a real gun, right? A couple years before the actual murder. And she was hoping she was shooting her mom. And so this violence toward her mother, she also came out with her a dagger in that same incident with the gun and a dagger is what she says. So we know that Gypsy did not just snap. Yet this question is asked and it's not relevant because Gypsy didn't snap. But we'll go ahead and listen to what this woman, this nurse Yorker, says. At this point, she should say, well, Gypsy really didn't snap. She had plotted this for a couple of years. Let's hear her answer.
I believe it was her good fortune that her mother was self-medicating, and her mother was often sleeping or in a drug-induced state, and Gypsy was free to get on the internet. And I think that, in a way, saved her. It opened a door to a life that she could see outside of that little house.
So it was Gypsy's good fortune. I guess you would say it's Dee Dee's bad fortune, right? But Gypsy had good fortune that she got to kill her mom because her mom was drowsy. Oh my God. I have written a letter to this woman. I haven't heard back. Again, I don't want to be too brutal in my remarks, but this is the problem when a 60 Minutes, goes out to try to find the experts, and the experts maybe take an hour to look at the case, right? And I've been looking at this case for 18 months and I still don't know everything. I still don't know everything. That's why I am so thankful to all the other content creators that are on top of this too. It's a total joint effort. No one is the expert. So we are all just trying to do the research and provide, the viewers with our research and let you guys make up your own mind. Okay, let's see what else here.
She had access to the real world and everything she was missing out on.
Right, right. And I did want to say that not all victims end up even being upset with their perpetrator. We are seeing quite a few victims who begin to believe that they are really, really ill. They believe their mothers. And then they carry on and they become Munchausen themselves.
Well, that makes sense. If you're told something from such a young age for so long and you're having all the treatment.
Right. And if you've been deprived of social normal growth, and then you realize that actually maybe you are more functional.
This has nothing to do with Gypsy. Let me see, just skip ahead. I think that's it. I don't remember if there was.
And she could have freedom. I mean, most people just can't get their head so quickly in front of the world's cameras. It's a huge challenge for anyone. That it was almost a bit disturbing.
Oh yeah,
as
this
she
part's
described
good.
her mother's murder.
So this anchor is talking about how she was disturbed at how Gypsy described her mother's murder. It disturbed her. Well, I'd like to let the anchor know that in my humble opinion and others' opinion, that Gypsy is a psychopath. Okay. She has antisocial personality disorder and she's a malignant narcissist in our humble opinions. And so that's why she was able to talk to you about her mother's murder the way she did. Okay. But of course, Nurse Yorker can't say that because she thinks that Gypsy is the ultimate victim here, that Dee Dee was the perpetrator. So here we go.
Calm and cool and collected, that it was almost a bit.
Hold on.
For whom that's too heavy a lift and that they would rather stay in the wheelchair.
I found her so calm and cool and collected that it was almost a bit disturbing as she described her mother's murder and hearing her mother scream. I mean, really graphic details. She almost could have been telling me, what she was having for dinner. Is that a common, is there a detachment there? What sort of ongoing psychological issues would a victim like Gypsy have?
Well, that very much sounds like some dissociation.
So she gives us this disassociation answer that I believe, in my humble opinion, does not apply at all to Gypsy, that Gypsy doesn't need to disassociate, that she's just a plain old psychopath, garden variety psychopath. It's interesting. I can't remember the author, but a very respected forensic psychiatrist or psychologist, not sure exactly which one, but in this book it's very, very well known, and I can't remember it right now, but they asked them what are the signs? What are the biggest signs that you would, tell somebody about that this person might be a psychopath? And the answer was really, really interesting. The answer was they play the ultimate victim. They do victim play, psychopaths. And that they don't act crazy. It's not that they're acting totally crazy. I'm, making fun, Gypsy spiraling out of control, but you get what I mean. If you met her in the grocery store or whatever, it's not that you would say, I think that girl's a psychopath, right? Not at first meeting. But if you start talking to this person, they are going to relay that they are a victim, that they've been a victim most of their life. And I do think Gypsy wears that well. I do think she falls into that category. All right, we're going to move on now away from Beatrice Yorker, and let's get to Gypsy's lieutenant, Bree over on TikTok. Okay, at one point, Gypsy appointed one of her lieutenants in her little cult, Bree, as her official spokesperson. And Bree would hold TikTok lives and she'd have like this sign over her head, Gypsy says, I can talk. I'm speaking for Gypsy. All right. So let's listen to Bree. This is within the last few days. She has this woman up on the panel that's asking her question. And I found this part very telling. Bree talking about Gypsy's seizure medication. Here we go.
That the doctor says strong possibility of Munchausen by proxy. Do you know that one of the reasons one of the red flags was that she had no seizure medication in her system, but yet he still prescribed her more seizure medication, even though she had none in her system. Actually, throughout Gypsy's records, you rarely see ever that she had.
Wait, she didn't have it in her system
when she went to the doctor.
When she was arrested?
No. Yeah, when she was arrested too, but no, when her mother, there was a doctor's appointment in 2007, I think it was, when the doctor noted that he thinks that there's a strong possibility of Munchausen by proxy.
Okay.
Oh shit, there was black on this. Go ahead. But yeah, so she had no, there was black on this brush. But anyways, no, so there was no that she told that the doctor saw that she had that was one of the reasons, that was one of the red flags that he found when he was doing the testing.
She didn't have that in her system.
Right.
Okay.
Which
and this was like 2007.
Okay, I know that it's very the way she speaks, the style is, I know. Okay, so she says Gypsy didn't have, one of the red flags was Gypsy didn't have seizure medication in her system when she went to the doctor. She reiterates this point later on. Gypsy didn't have seizure medication in her system when she was arrested or at this doctor's appointment. So there's no seizure medication, right? And I'm thinking, okay, well, wait a minute though. I know like this has been a huge point about her teeth, that her teeth fell out because her mother was feeding her all these kind of medication, especially the seizure medication, the Tegretol, the Keppra, right? It was causing her teeth to just fall out, right? All right, let's take a listen to one part of that I found in one of Gypsy's documentaries. Here we go. All right, here we go, guys.
Sure, all the names of the medication that my mom was making me take, but there was a lot of ones that basically just put me under a sedated state.
Okay, so here you're looking at some of these medications, EpiPen, and there's albuterol, and like I said, tons of different kinds of inhalers. And she said again, so this notion that her mom was drugging her out. Okay, let's move on.
The medications did affect my teeth. They started to deteriorate, and
the medications that did affect my teeth, and they started to deteriorate.
some of them had to be extracted.
So where are you going?
Okay, so you heard it there. And in other places, Mike Stanfield, her attorney, also talks about that. All right, now you're going to hear Mike Stanfield, her attorney, talking about this. This is around the time of her arrest, maybe 6 months later, whatever, when they're filming Mommy, Dead, and Dearest.
Making up her illnesses and disabilities.
Gypsy's mom was abusing her physically, medically, giving her medication she didn't need, having her go through procedures that she didn't need, to the point where most of Gypsy's teeth are not even hers because of the medication that her mom was giving her that she had no condition for.
Okay, so which is it? Did she have none of the seizure medication in her system, which would indicate that her mother was not, number one, not medicating her, like it wasn't Munchausen, because a Munchausen mom, if there was no real seizures, would not be giving the medication, right? She may be saying she's got seizures, but maybe she didn't. Here's my take on it. This is just my opinion, okay? There's no way to prove this or disprove it, okay? My take on it, in all of the time Gypsy was at the doctor, okay, in the hospital, all right, for the microdeletion and all of those symptoms, okay, sleep studies overnight. No one, no friends, no hospital personnel. So even when Gypsy went out on outings, went to Disney World, went to Cape Cod, all of those times, not one person witnessed a seizure. Okay. I don't think Gypsy was having grand mal seizures. I think maybe when Gypsy was little, she might have been having what's called petite mal. And I think Dee Dee ran with it. Okay. And that became part of Gypsy's, medical history, the part of the con. All right. And that Dee Dee knew she wasn't having seizures and that she wasn't giving her seizure medication, because I could find in the records where, yes, no Tegretol in the system, no Tegretol in the system. So she wasn't taking it, which would indicate Dee Dee didn't have Munchausen, which would also prove this whole thing, which they're saying, mommy dead and dearest, what they were trying to sell the public, which they did sell the public. Her teeth fell out because her mother was a monster who was giving her medication that caused her teeth to rot in her head. And now we're finding out it wasn't in her system. Her mom didn't do that. And Bree confirmed it. Gypsy's own lieutenant confirmed it. But I bet you could find different videos of Bree saying it. But more than Bree, you can find Mike Stanfield saying it. You can find Gypsy saying it. You can find them going on the record saying, here's a part of the Munchausen, right? It's just unbelievable. The things you find, the things you find. All right, guys. Let's see what else Bree has to say. Oh, we're still going. All right, guys, here's another portion that I found very interesting. And this is about Gypsy's medical records, right? You know this whole story, her medical records from, when she was little had washed away during Katrina and all that. Well, guess what? Bree gives away something about the medical records that is very interesting. Let's take a listen.
That she had cancer.
All right.
Like, there's no records whatsoever. Like, absolutely not. Like, I have access. I have like half of the records here, but I have all Gypsy's records, and there's not any records from when she was that little.
Okay.
So what Bree goes on to say here is that there are no records. Gypsy can't get them. Nobody can get them from when she was really little. So when she was really little, Dee Dee was not keeping those records from the doctor. They aren't there. Nobody can get them. And I do think it probably goes back to Katrina. I did look that up, and there was water damage to Tulane University Medical Center where Gypsy was seen. And yeah. All right, let's see. I think she goes on a little bit more.
So if we go like before that with the for instance, like her having to have this CPAP machine when she was a baby and whatnot. And then even like I know that.
So this is this girl, and it's very long, but what happens here is Bree says about the CPAP machine that, you know what, Dee Dee was making, because this woman brings up, you know what, I heard that when she was really little that she did have sleep apnea. And in fact, her grandfather gave that away, that he was so scared because the alarm would go off in the middle of the night and they'd all have to rush to the room, to make sure that Gypsy was breathing, that it was alarm. And Bree says, well, some people think Dee Dee was doing that. Dee Dee was doing that, making the alarm go off in the middle of the night. Yeah. And then she says, oh, those machines, they didn't really have alarms. There's a lot of, they didn't have alarms. Well, you know what? Yeah, they did. They did. I don't know if it's going to take too long to get to that point. Let me see.
Dee Dee's parents spoke out against her, and that's a whole other level. But even they like who speak negatively about her will talk. And sorry, I'm shivering a little bit. And she was saying with them that her CPAP monitor would go off and all that throughout the night and whatnot. Which would indicate that there absolutely was a need for that.
So there are some people who believe that, I'm not saying this is true because I wasn't there, that believe Dee Dee would set off the machine on her own. But there's also some people I heard that they said they never even heard of a CPAP machine making noise like that. I have no freaking clue. But
making noise like what?
Making like an alarm going off on it and stuff.
Okay, so there it is. There it is. All right. So there is actual, CPAP machines. Look at the top the top part right here in 1991, that's when Gypsy was born. Several types of home breathing machines had alarms, including apnea monitors for infants. That's exactly what Gypsy would have been given, an apnea monitor for an infant. Okay, they had alarms as a crucial safety feature to alert caretakers of equipment malfunctions or a potential breathing emergency. Okay, so yeah, the grandfather said he remembers it. It's a memory he has. He wasn't even asked about it. He just goes, I remember when Dee Dee, after the divorce, she moved in with me. And I've showed that clip many times. All right. While we're on this little part right here that's up, these are the other things that Gypsy has brought up over the last few days that she's doubling down on. You say hashtag Operation Cockroach, meaning she's not going anywhere. She's digging in. And she's digging in about all these medical issues. That's what she's digging in on, that she is not going to move an inch, that she is still going to go with her official narrative that has thus been debunked over and over by many content creators. And yeah, so she's digging in, cockroach, that you can't kill it, you can't get rid of it. That's why she's calling it Operation Cockroach. Okay. And then part of her new spin, if you look to the right-hand side, is her writing this. She didn't write this. She got this quote from somewhere else, but she posted it. And it reads, the memory loss from deep depression and trauma is not talked about enough. It's not just forgetting small things. Now, this is how she's getting away with going, well, I don't remember. The plead, the argument, it's called in a debate, the argument of ignorance, claiming ignorance. I don't know. I can't remember that. You're expecting me to remember all this. I can't remember all this. Well, you remembered it all of that after your attorney told you your mom had Munchausen. You sure were selective about things that you remembered. You forgot that you had told your BFF Aaliyah, right? Aaliyah Woodmansey, who lived across the street from Dee Dee and Gypsy. I've shown that too. She wrote to Aaliyah, I have a microdeletion, and that's why all the medical issues. She forgot that part when they told her, you know what, we think your mom has Munchausen. And Gypsy's like, yeah, but maybe this is part of this forgetting small things. It goes on to say it's losing chunks of your own life. Whole days and months. Wow. Even years blur together. How old are you? 75? Because your brain was too busy surviving to record them. Yeah, don't believe any of that at all. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. Okay? Don't believe it. All right, let's get on to the next thing, guys. All right, real quick, this video is already 42 minutes and I got other things I got to get to, but I wanted to show you guys some interesting things about the high palate and the swallowing. But before we get to that, there's been a couple videos. Let me show you these swallowing videos of Gypsy. I've shown a couple. Here are a couple more. This is Gypsy. I want you guys to notice this one, how the fork. She's going to put that fork, she's going to have it opposite. Like usually you're holding it a different way, but yeah, some people do it this way, but she's going to put it back, like back in the side of her mouth. It goes in kind of in a weird angle. And I'm going to show you why, because of the high palate, but just notice. Okay. Once again, I couldn't slow this down because of the type of video it was. It's okay. All right. So now we know during her interrogation, she was putting her fingers in her mouth to push back the pieces of sandwich. Sadly, they sped up this video after she takes a couple bites. Oh, it was really, really frustrating. But let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here we go. Hold on. She's taking the bite. Okay, she's taking the bite, and now the fingers are going to go up to the mouth and wait for it. She's chewing, 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 chewing. Of course, this is in slow-mo. And the fingers go in, and she's food back into the back of her mouth. There it goes, fingers in and opening her mouth. You can tell by the side or cheeks, her fingers are going in to push the food back. And when I show you what happens with a high palate, and she's got an incredibly high palate, it's from the microdeletion. That's why she's doing this with her food. That's why she's putting her fingers in and pushing back the bites of sandwich that she's taking. Okay. And lastly, of course, you guys have all seen this. The tiny bit, tiny, see on the fork, just a smidgen of royal mashed potatoes. Let's go ahead and take a look at, and that's the whole mechanics of the swallow study. That's what they picked up on. That's why they knew they had a problem. Here we go, real quick. Okay, and you're going to see her face changes too. She doesn't enjoy it, doesn't enjoy the swallowing part of it. She's going to pretend like she does here, but then it's this look, oh, like, oh, I got to push it back. I got to push it back in that kind of a look, like, right? Yeah. So we've all seen those. Let's take a look at what happens with a high palate. And you guys decide if you think this sounds like Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Okay, why high palate causes feeding problems. The palate, roof of the mouth, normally widens and broadens during infancy as the tongue rests against it. A high, narrow, or vaulted, and she's got that high, narrow, and vaulted palate, all of them, can affect a child's ability to eat and swallow effectively. Poor tongue movement. A high palate can result from the tongue being unable to reach and rest against the roof of the mouth. This limits its ability to move food around and what? Propel it backward. Propel it backward for swallowing. Now look at this next one too. In infantile or tongue thrust, we see she still has the tongue thrust. Swallow pattern. She does have it when she eats. She does it. May persist, in which the tongue pushes food forward or between the teeth rather than backward. The tongue's restricted movement can lead to messy eating, excessive drooling, or difficulty chewing. All right. Weak suction. Without a proper seal between the tongue and the palate, infants, this is talking about infants, cannot create enough suction for effective nursing or bottle feeding. This, of course, leads to the failure to thrive, right? This can result in clicking sounds. Have we heard those? Poor milk transfer or air intake that leads to gas and reflux. Exactly the things she was diagnosed with. She was diagnosed with gastrointestinal reflux that led to that laparoscopic procedure to prevent the vomiting, to prevent the reflux coming up. Remember, the digestive tract starts in the mouth. It starts in the mouth. All right. It goes down the esophagus, down to the large intestines, to the small intestines. So the digestive tract starts in the mouth with the saliva breaking down the food, the type of way you swallow or can't swallow effectively. This is all part of the digestive tract. Okay. Thought you guys would find that very interesting. Okay. Let's get to this little tiny controversy, shall we? Hold on here. All right, guys. Some of you may or may not know what I'm going to talk about next. It's not really a big deal, but I just wanted to clarify because my channel is all about transparency. If I make a mistake, I'd like to correct it, right? You know, we're all human. And if there's a little controversy going around that I think might have something to do with something I've got or don't have, whatever, I want to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it. So there's this little tiny controversy about some of these new Nick Godejohn files that are going around that came out. Okay. I don't know. I know I can only tell you about the ones I have. Okay. And anyone can get these files. Okay. All you have to do is go to it's called the PACER system. And I'm going to show you what that's about. All right. But here's how I got the ones I have. All right. The other thing is some people are alleging that getting these files, these official documents that are part of, you know, being an American, that we can get these, you know, type of documents as long as the court system or the law enforcement agency deems that they can be offered for the public. That's part of their transparency, right? Is to offer these files to the public for full transparency, right? They're saying that some people obtain them against Nick Godejohn's wishes. And I don't understand that. I don't understand what that has anything to do with anything. So I don't work for Nick and I don't work for Gypsy. I have sympathy and empathy toward Nick. And I think I've proven that with my early videos that have 200 and almost 300,000 views that talk about Nick, talk about his plight, talk about what went on in the trial. Okay. So no one can accuse me of not being sympathetic towards him in some ways, but I'm also not representing him. And I am for the truth, whatever the truth is. And if documents come out that are gotten officially in the proper way through the proper channels, then I'm going to look at them. That's part of my job here, right? Why would I not look at them? And I don't know what this means going against Nick's wishes. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. How like is looking at certain documents going against Gypsy's wishes? Oh, I'm sure they are, right? I'm sure she doesn't like it, right? But we're trying to get to the truth. And so turning a blind eye to official documents that come out that can be obtained by anyone if you want to pay for them, right? Is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on with that. I didn't pay for these documents. They came from a woman named Myra who was on TikTok. I've talked to her maybe once in my life. And it was through Barb, straight out of context. All right. They gave me everything I needed to look at to see how they were gotten super officially. Well, come on. They got them through the PACER system, which they proved to me. What's the PACER system? All right. PACER, it's the public act. And so if anyone wants to get these, this is where you go. You can get any of these case files from Nicholas Godejohn. The Nicholas Godejohn, this is these new ones came out after his habeas corpus was denied. And so after that happened, these became available. Well, I think she might have gotten them before then, and then she held them because the sheriff said, hold on to them. Not really sure about that. Regardless, they were gotten legitimately through this system. So this is the Public Access to Court Electronic Records, or PACER service, provides electronic public access to federal court records. PACER provides the public with instantaneous access to more than 1 billion documents filed at all the several federal courts. It is I also looked it up. It is the official way that the federal courts give out information is through PACER. Okay, and then it says what you need to do. It has an 800 number if you want assistance and help in getting these documents. Okay, I know you have to pay for them though. Okay. And I have seen everything I've needed to see, the receipts, all of it, that it was all gotten legitimately. Then there's some weirdness like, we don't know if there's things have been taken away from them or no. I don't know where that's coming from. I think I know where it's coming from, and I don't like it, okay? Because the documents I gotten are all complete. You can tell they're complete. They're PDFs. You know, they're like trial transcripts basically. There's nothing nefarious going on here. There's nothing weird. Mitch would find it and I would find it. Okay, if it looked like there was something that wasn't complete with any of these files or something that looks really weird with these files, there's nothing. There's nothing. So, all right, you can believe me or not. All right, I think this is a ridiculous thing that is coming up. After I go through them all, though, I have because I didn't pay for them. What she wanted me to do is she wanted me to go through them first and report on the relevant things that I find. Once I do that, and I've been doing that, all right, that's what my next live is going to be about, then I will make them public. That's what she wants me to do. So that's what I'm going to do. Does that sound fair? I think that sounds fair, right? I'm all for transparency and not gatekeeping any documents. So I'm almost finished. I will be having a live within the next few days all about these Nick new documents. And there is some really, really interesting stuff in there. But it's all like pre-trial hearings, stuff like that. There's nothing weird about it. All right. Or I would tell you, I would be totally transparent. Why wouldn't I? Why would I have any reason to lie about these documents? There was nothing weird about how I got them. There's nothing weird about there's nothing weird. That's all I'm going to say. And so, all right. Do we got that? Are we good? I hope we're good. All right. And I don't know if these are even the documents that some people are talking about. Like, yeah, I don't think they went against Nick's wishes. Really? Why would he not want the whole truth out there? Why would he not want the whole truth out there? Why would he not want everything about his case made public? It only goes in his favor. And if there's something that doesn't go in his favor, well, it's the truth, right? But so far, I have found nothing shocking along those lines. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not sure who is very upset that other people got these records. But you can go get them. You can go get them right now if you want to pay for them. All right. Or you can wait for my live and you can hear about them. Okay. All right. Let's get to one more thing. And if you guys want to email me about that, there is okay, hold on. There is one really weird thing about him. And this may be why people are talking about him. Apparently somebody that wasn't on Nick's legal team that had nothing to do with the case filed a 21-page, and I'm not using this 21 pages, by the way, filed a 21-page document trying to help Nick. And the brouhaha about that is that this was just some random person that decided to file this. And this may be where all of this weirdness about these new files that have come out started. So just to put that to bed, I'm not doing anything with the 21 pages that Nick did not ask to be written for him. I'm just going on pure trial transcripts, right? Like really solid stuff, not stuff like that. So that is a weird happening that happened with this. But that may be the impetus or how this weirdness started about the trial stuff. I don't know. I think I've talked way more long about this and is even needed to be talked about this. But anyone that thinks we shouldn't look at trial transcripts because somebody doesn't like it, grow up. Okay, grow up, right? This is how it works, right? When you're investigating a case. All right, guys, let me get to one more thing. All right, guys, let's end with some of your brilliant comments from my live stream. Lainey says, the Tarpon children lived under the worst conditions that would barely keep a rat alive, had zero education, but managed to escape just the same. They understood 911 and what it meant. Next comment, Sing and Dance said, this girl never sat face to face with someone who will criticize her lies and truly challenge her with evidence. Such a shame there was never a trial. Oh yeah, totally agree. Bobby wrote, the thing I don't understand is why does she despise Dee Dee so much, but hold such high regards for Rod when he disappeared from her life for many years? I mean, she gives a whole new level to daddy issues when her mom did everything to try to figure out what was wrong with her child. It's so damn twisted, in my opinion. Yes, Bobby. Next one from Fluffy Muffin. Gypsy can't control public opinion, and it drives her insane. I agree with you. Now, this last comment, very interesting. From Mr. Clean 2874. I've had it with Gypsy. I know her and Dee Dee's life once they came to Springfield. She had behavioral issues, and it was well known because Gypsy displayed them in public. Gypsy constantly told people she was sick to get sympathy and gifts. Dee Dee would praise any milestones Gypsy did. Dee Dee wanted Gypsy to learn, be independent, and thrive. Asked Gypsy about the highlights book, the learning books that Dee Dee would do with Gypsy and display them. Asked Gypsy how Dee Dee got her in and out of the car to the wheelchair. Why did Gypsy, hold on, I got to get the next part. Why did Gypsy answer the door when neighbors called to check on Dee Dee when she was sick and would bring food over for them? Gypsy had no hygiene on her own. Dee Dee would argue with Gypsy and resort to bribing her to take a shower, brush her teeth, etc. Dee Dee was terrified for Gypsy if Dee Dee didn't get better or would die. She confided to neighbors and friends that she tried to help Dee Dee with Gypsy when Dee Dee got sicker and sicker. She was afraid that Gypsy would be abused or neglected if Dee Dee died. Dee Dee was in agony over Gypsy's future and if she would thrive. Gypsy was self-centered, entitled, spoiled, and needed attention. Gypsy had the upper hand and power over Dee Dee, and Dee Dee never impersonated Gypsy. Gypsy is just spewing lie after lie to try to become the poor, innocent victim that needs everyone to pity her and give her gifts. Dee Dee felt like she failed her daughter because it took so long to find out what was wrong with her health, and that Gypsy wouldn't be able to thrive and be okay without Dee Dee. That was the guilt Dee Dee carried. She wanted Gypsy to be happy, healthy, and successful, but was worried she wouldn't, and Dee Dee blamed herself. That's how much Dee Dee loved her daughter. Wow. Wow. That's from someone that knew them. Of course, can I prove that 100%? No, but this person is saying that they did. You guys be the judge. Does that sound like this situation? I do know one thing. I do know Dee Dee was very worried about when something would happen to her because she wanted to make sure that she gave those friends of hers, I think it was Ray and Rachel Miller, power of attorney. Like they would take Gypsy if something happened to Dee Dee. So that was in place. So I guess Dee Dee was well aware of her health, obviously. Maybe I'll get a little bit into that on my next live. So very sad, very sad. All right, guys. That's going to do it for Becca Scoops. I will be going live. Keep your notifications on. It's going to be another big live stream. Couple of hours. We're going to be getting into the new records that I have regarding the Go to John case. Of course, lots of stuff about Gypsy in there. Lots of stuff I've already found. All right, guys. So you don't want to miss that. But if you can't watch it live, catch it on the replay. All right. All right, guys. You guys take care. Becca Scoops out. Have a great evening.